Hey everybody, we're back to continue our little odyssey into the Bionicle universe. Now, I really enjoyed showing you guys the workflow that we developed for character design, and we got a lot of very useful feedback from you. One thing a ton of folks were saying is that they would love to see these characters hand sculpted, that they think it will help with the overall character design and cohesion, and I tend to agree. I think that's probably correct. So seeing as we're going to be delving into this a lot deeper than we initially thought, I think that's exactly what we're going to do. Going back to a more traditional workflow of hand sculpting and texturing, just to make sure that we get the highest level of detail and thought into these models as possible. So this is going to be the first in a series of videos focusing on specific characters as we begin to design and just flesh out the wonderful world of Bionicle. So today we're going to start with Gali, Toa of Water. This is one of the 6 Toamata initially released in 2001, and I think that that's going to be the period in the Bionicle universe that I'm going to be focusing on. So I'm going to start in Maya, where I will sculpt and rig the character, then we'll move it over into Substance Painter, where we will texture it, and finally move all of that over into Unreal, where we will apply some animations and get a really nice final product. The first step in my creative process, whenever I'm trying to write something or create anything, is to write a piece of music for it. This just helps me to gather my thoughts and focus in on what it is I'm trying to create. In this case, I actually think it gives us a really good aesthetic backbone to what we're doing, so I'm going to use that piece of music as the underscore for the video. With Gali, I'm thinking of engravings on her armor that are somewhat evocative of Rococo, and internal mechanics that look more or less steampunk. So to that effect, I'm going to begin by sculpting her torso. And regarding the torso, this is a design element that I plan on incorporating into all the characters. The idea that they're basically a mess of fleshy tendrils contained inside of a metal shell, kind of like a mollusk. That's how I've seen Bionicles described in the past, and I think it's a really interesting thing to explore visually. Okay, now moving on to the hands. This is a bit of a tricky one, because there's been a lot of different ways that hands have been depicted in Bionicle art in the past, and of course, the original toys, the Toa didn't necessarily have hands. Their Toa tools were just built into their arms, and on a few of them they would have this secondary arm that felt very sort of underdeveloped and vestigial. So I think there's a great opportunity for some visual storytelling here. One thing that I think you kind of learn over the course of life is a lot like the Spider-Man with great power comes great responsibility. The more strength or power you have, a lot of times the less freedom of choices you have over your own life. Like the Matoran have hands. They can choose to be builders or sculptors or scholars or guards. The Toa don't get that choice. Their very physiology is built toward a singular purpose, and that is to protect and defend the Matoran. So that's definitely a theme that I think should be reflected in the design, that the Toa shouldn't necessarily have multi-purposed hands. Their arms should be built for the singular purpose of wielding their Toa tool. For Gali, of course, that's her claws. Okay, onto the face. This is probably going to be the controversial part of the design, but of course the toys had faces. They were uniform across the board for all 6 Toa, and they weren't particularly pretty to look at. I think that's most likely why previous adaptations of this franchise have tried to blur the lines between the face and the mask. I don't want to do that. I want the mask and the face to be 2 very separate entities, and I want the faces to be very individualized per character, while still evoking a lot of the same shapes and form language of the toy pieces. So for Gali, I'm going to start with that, and then sprinkle in a few other influences in there, specifically Creature from the Black Lagoon. I'm going to add in these mechanical fins around her jawline, just to make this feel a little bit more like an aquatic creature. Now we add the mask. We move this thing on over to Substance Painter, where we can add all of our textures. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have a finished character. Okay, and that's going to do it. Thanks for sticking around till the end, and why don't you leave a comment? Let us know what you'd like to see us make next, be it a Toa, Matoran, Taraga, Arahi, anything in the Bionicle universe. I think the plan right now is to make some more videos like this one, until we get enough of the assets built up that we can start making some short-form narrative content with them, and possibly gear up for something bigger. Thank you all so much once again, and we will see you in the next one.